Hello and welcome to Studio Center in State College, Pennsylvania. I am professional content creator John Ward, and I am here with our studio manager, Steve. What's going on, Steve?
How's it going, everybody?
And Steve, I think, has stumbled across the absolute perfect first video for our Studio Center YouTube channel, which is this chessboard sitting here in front of me. But he was doing inventory a couple days ago and came across this, and I'll let him quickly tell what he noticed about this board that was interesting.
Yeah, I was just going through some old drawers, and I came across this board. I probably wouldn't have thought anything of it if all the pieces were inside the board packed away, but they were separate in a plastic bag. So I just took a look at the inside of the board, and I noticed, there looked like what was a newspaper clipping, a couple signatures next to that, and a written inscription, and it really looked interesting. It was all in Russian.
Yeah, I was going to say, not in English either. It was in Russian. And so, yeah, he opens this up. The pieces are sitting in a plastic bag, so he opens it up, and there's Russian writing inside. We'll show you that in a second. But if you look at this board at a glance, it's fairly inexpensive wood. It's old. It's beat up. So we started researching it, and it is indeed, we learned, just a cheap, mass-produced, probably board that was made in the Soviet Union circa 1970. So this picture behind me you see here, which Steve is going to pull up the big version of. There you go. This is from the Soyuz 9 space mission. It's historically significant because it was the first ever game of chess played between outer space and Earth. There's two cosmonauts playing in outer space on a board. This photograph is of the two Russian gentlemen, Viktor Gorbatko and Nikolai Kamanin. They were the players on the Earth side. Now, if you look at that photograph, you can see on the front of the board, Steve's highlighting there, a little circular clasp on the front of the board, and then the pieces with the little alternating colors on top of the king and queen. If you come back over to our board, we notice that. And so, wow, that's interesting. Now, there are different mass-produced boards from around the 1970s, but they don't all have this clasp. So we're like, wow, how interesting. Now, as far as the writing goes that he's talking about, take the pieces off here and flip this guy over for you. This is what Steve saw when he opened it up. So there is a very old newspaper article that's glued in there that is written in Russian and then has a series of chess moves from a game. The oldest writing on it are these signatures, particularly this one here and this one here. And then it looks like some others were added in some green and blue pen later. The newest writing is this black marker, and we translated that. Steve was smart enough to know that you can do that with phones now, which was great. But particularly if you look right here at the little hyphenated words, Earth, space, and then down here there is a date in 1970. Sure enough, it all matches up. So the Earth board, again, if you go back to that photograph, was played by Viktor Gorbatko and Nikolai Kamanin. If you'll scroll to the top of this article, we'll just give you the full Soyuz 9 story here real quick. So when was chess first played in space? This is from a chess.com article. The story begins on June 1st, 1970, when the Soyuz 9 mission was launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, which is a cool name for a spaceport, in southern Kazakhstan. On June 9th, 8 days after the mission began, the two cosmonauts aboard the spacecraft, which that's the picture of it right there, teamed up to play a chess game against another team of two players on the ground. We're concerned about the players on the ground. So if you scroll past this cool stamp and that cosmonaut and keep going, that is the space board. We found out this was sold at auction somewhat recently in London, and you'll notice that it has these pegs on all the pieces that allowed them to snap into the board. That's because there's no gravity in space and the pieces would float away. So clearly, we are not holding the space board. What is interesting about this board, though, is that it was signed by both cosmonauts and then later signed in green and blue ink by other Soviet chess champions like Boris Spassky and people like that. More on that in a second. If you keep scrolling down, so, oh shoot, we don't have the spaceport, obviously. There's the game that's on the newspaper article. We find the Earth board, and in particular the players, again, Viktor Gorbatko and Nikolai Kamanin. We'll start with the second guy, Nikolai Kamanin. If you come back to our board and you see this very first prominent signature, it looks like it says H dot something with a K. Steve, again, being very smart, said H is the Russian N, so it's NK something. We got on the internet and we looked up what does Nikolai Kamanin's official signature actually look like. Again, here it is on the board. This is Nikolai Kamanin's official signature on your screen now. Notice especially the K. Did the same thing for Viktor Gorbatko. This signature, which is upside down from your perspective, but has this very distinctive swoosh from this G at the beginning. On your screen now is the Viktor Gorbatko official signature. And then just like the Chessboard, we believe these green and blue signatures and things may be other Russian chess champions. But so we were fairly convinced at that point that it had both the Earthbound players. If you pull up that photograph that's behind me one more time on the screen for the viewers, you'll see that Kamanin and Gorbatko, Earthbound players. So the first thing we did is we called Russia, which is already a pretty tricky thing to do because of the time difference being on the other side of the planet. And we found a guy who sells things like this. And he said, yeah, it looks like it might be real. Why don't you mail it to me? So we're not going to do that. But what we are going to do, Steve, is we're going to come back in and we're going to do a second video on this series. We're going to do a series documenting the adventure of getting this board back to Russia, which is something we believe we should do. It's a piece of their history, if that is indeed this is the Earth board, used in the first ever chess game between Earth and outer space. And if we can't get us a free trip to meet Putin out of it in some way, then we're going to do that too. But we'll be back again in not too long here on the Studio Center channel with the follow-up video of us calling the Russian Chess Museum, which we're going to have to stay up till like 2 a.m. in order to do. We're going to send them some photographs of this bad boy, signatures, article, all that stuff. See, number one, if they can verify that this is indeed that board. And number two, if it is, if we can bring it to them in some sort of peaceable mission and just solve all the world's problems. That's what we're going to do with this board. No, but I would very much like to know if this is it, if we've played casual chess games on the Earth board from the Earth's first ever Earth space game. So thank you again, Steve, for doing inventory. An absolute incredible find, we think. We'll be back shortly with another video in the series where we stay up until 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning and call the Russian Chess Museum. Hopefully they speak English, and we find out if this is indeed the chessboard used on the Earth side of the first ever chess game between Earth and outer space. We'll see you then.